Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Think Big Bodybuilding Media. I'm Scott McNally, and today we're going to go deep. We're with Dr. Dean St Mart, and the topic is hacking sleep. We've talked about this before. I thought it was time to revisit and refresh. So as it turns out, there are different types of insomnia, which it makes sense. Some people have a harder time falling asleep. Some people have a harder time staying asleep. And these things are caused by different issues with our neurotransmitters. So we're going to discuss what's actually happening, and we're going to discuss how you can use simple over-the-counter supplementation to correct these things. Dr. Dean has formulated a product that he calls the Sleep Stack, where he's put all the stuff together. It's available from Supplement Needs, and we're going to discuss each one of the ingredients and why they do what they do and how you can improve the quality of your sleep. And let me tell you guys, this stuff absolutely works. I've been using it for over a year now, and it is hands down the best sleep supplement that I have ever taken. Since the time of this recording, we've become affiliates with Supplement Needs, so you can use our code ADVICES for some additional savings. And I believe in this stuff. We've got links down in the show notes, but regardless whether you use it or not, you can get some high quality information here about the supplements that you can use to improve the quality of your sleep and your life. If you learned something today, hit the like button and leave me a comment with your experiences.
So I guess people are probably aware, technically insomnia is known as, a difficulty either initiating sleep or maintaining sleep. So either you have difficulty falling asleep or you have difficulty staying asleep. For people who aren't aware, my background is a shift chemical engineer. So I work alternating between day shifts and night shifts. So when I first went on to shift, I had to come up with a solution to help fix some of the sleep issues that would occur with sleeping during the day.
Okay.
So obviously you're going against your circadian rhythm, which is, your biological rhythm that tells you when it's nighttime, when it's daytime. You have these internal body clocks, to make it simple. So when it comes to sleep, we either have difficulty falling asleep. So people might find, that they're wired but tired. They can't relax their mind at nighttime to help them fall asleep. Or they may find that they can drift off easily, but at some point during the night, say 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, they wake up and they have difficulty then getting back to sleep. And of course, that's going to have an impact then on your daily routine the following day, because you're going to have complications with, low mood, low production at work. You may feel depressed. Again, something like an acute stressor could be what's triggering that insomnia. Yeah. It could be, an acute event where, say, work is getting very stressful. That's having an impact on how your brain's neurochemistry is behaving. And that triggers then, obviously, an insomnia episode where you can't fall asleep. If we look then, we have different ways that you can treat sleep. Most of the time, the conventional treatments are either that you look at someone's sleep hygiene. So you look at their routines of how they fall asleep, what they do in the period of time leading up to going asleep. Yeah. So this has a big impact on your sleep quality. Staying up late, watching TV, looking at blue light, interacting in, hyper arousal activities like arguing with someone online, responding to work emails before sleep. All that triggers off anxiety and neurotransmitters that would promote wakefulness.
Dude, even watching like very active television shows, it's something that I hadn't been, like that sleep hygiene, as you put it, it's not something I had paid a ton of attention to in the past, but my significant other, Victoria, has really gotten me into these habits now. We make sure that we have the lights turned down 2 hours before we're going to bed. We don't watch things on TV. Like we'll sit down and usually watch an hour of TV, but we don't watch like Ozark right before bed, which is, a highly dramatic TV show that gets your heart racing. We purposefully go out of our way to watch things that are going to be like low key and mellow, and that the sound is turned down. All those things, man. And I'll tell you what, that stuff has made a big difference in my sleep. It used to be, my thought, Dean, was that if I had a problem sleeping, I would just take a pill for that.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to get to next. Obviously sleep hygiene is like low level hanging fruit that is easy to address. avoid TV, avoid blue light. You know, have a wind down routine where for the 30 minutes before you go to sleep that you don't interact with your phone. You know, you read a book, something to actually distract your mind from what may have happened during that day. Then after that, obviously, then the other side of it is pharmacological interventions. So obviously, you know, benzodiazepines, antihistamines, stuff that induces a drowsy state, but never actually addresses the mechanisms of sleep. And normally what we see is when those pharmacological interventions are removed, the insomnia tends to return because we haven't actually addressed the root cause. And from all the chats so far that we've had, you know, I'm a big advocate of always getting to what is the root cause to an actual disease process.
Which that's not the common, I think, method that I think is being used. If I go to my doctor, she'll give me Ambien or suggest I use an over-the-counter product that has, you know, Benadryl in it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the antihistamines, or, you know, you go straight for the hammer to the head with, you know, GABA inhibitors that basically just put your brain into a lulled state where you don't actually progress through sleep cycles.
Okay.
So you don't end up getting that restorative sleep that you would if you had fallen asleep naturally.
And that we need, you know, I mean, our audience here, we are all people that are, whether you consider yourself a bodybuilder or not, we're all into physical fitness. We love lifting weights and, you know, ideally we want to grow muscle. So you're telling me that, I mean, that's definitely going to be inhibited if I were, say, taking an Ambien every night.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you're never going to reach, you know, that N4 deep stage of sleep where we have, you know, restorative processes like growth hormone secretion occurring. You know, we need to have a certain level of deep sleep per night to aid in physical restoration.
Okay.
And then obviously as the night progresses, you enter more into N2 and N3 REM sleep, you know, dream sleep, which is more so for consolidating memories and for also, I guess, cleaning out junk between our, I guess, the neurons of our brain. It's more like, you know, a sweeping cleaning mechanism that happens when we're dreaming to help make room for more memories to be made. So, you know, if you're not going into these sleep stages at nighttime and you're staying in light sleep, which would be the lowest level, you're never going to have this physical restoration. So it is going to have an impact if you are a physical athlete and you want to put on muscle tissue, because you're never entering into these potential anabolic states.
Okay.
So with the sleep stack, like I said, with working shift and obviously being a competitive bodybuilder myself, when it came time to prep for the national shows in Ireland, I had to figure some way out to help improve my sleep.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, I will admit, when I was young and naive, so when I was maybe in my early 20s, I probably would have used the likes of Phenibut and GABA as a solution to, you know, just lulling my brain so I fall asleep.
Yeah.
Without actually ever fully thinking to myself, actually, what is the biochemistry of what's happening with sleep? You know, you get to a point when you're on prep and you're just lying there awake at night and you can't fall asleep.
It's the worst.
And all you're thinking is, okay, I know Phenibut, because of its mechanism of action, will just knock me out.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to give you very restorative sleep? No. So I had to figure out why we end up with phases of sleep and what induces those phases of sleep.
Okay.
So I guess if you want to bring up on the screen, we can talk through the biochemistry.
All right. So we're going to get deep. We're going to get a little deeper here, I think.
We can actually then break down what the sleep stack was designed to do, basically.
Okay. I got you up here.
So when I was developing this, I came to realize there was two important things to the mechanisms of sleep. One, it was creating an environment of high serotonin, which is a calming neurotransmitter. So we need high serotonin to actually allow us to fall asleep.
Okay.
But we also want a low dopamine environment. So dopamine is an excitatory neurotransmitter.
Okay.
That promotes wakefulness, or, you know, it's a reward promoting neurotransmitter. So when you're lying in bed at night and your mind is going 10 million miles an hour, It's
Yeah.
generally a high dopamine concentration that is driving that process in your brain
Okay.
that's preventing you from falling asleep.
And so that's basically number one. Because you said there's different types of insomnia at the beginning. Number one would be not being able to fall asleep, and so that basically you're telling me that dopamine is what's responsible. If I have the type of insomnia where I can't sleep at night, I can't fall asleep, then it's most likely my inability to clear dopamine.
Exactly.
All
And
right.
that's sort of where, when we start applying, say, advanced bodybuilding
Yeah.
on people who use androgens, we start to actually understand why, quote unquote, people suffer with transomnia, like what we
Okay.
discussed the first time. So, in order to promote a high serotonin environment, we either ingest, an amino acid rich food that will provide tryptophan, which feeds into 5-HTP, which creates serotonin. So if we start at tryptophan
Okay.
and we work our way across, tryptophan hydroxylase, TPH, converts to 5-hydroxytryptophan.
Now,
So either you can
where is this
ingest,
at on the chart here that we're looking at?
so it'll be right in the middle of the chart. If you see tryptophan,
Okay, I see that.
that feeds over to 5-HTP when you follow the arrow.
Okay.
And that enzyme that uses that converts tryptophan to 5-HTP is tryptophan hydroxylase.
Okay.
So either we can ingest, a high carbohydrate food that is rich in tryptophan,
Mm-hmm.
or we can supplement with 5-HTP, which would be a direct source. So in the sleep stack, there's 200 milligrams of 5-HTP.
Okay.
That's going to directly then fall down to serotonin. So if you follow the arrow down, it goes to serotonin.
And that's what that. Okay, I see.
So there's an enzyme, DDC, which is another decarboxylase enzyme, which decarboxylates 5-HTP to serotonin. But that needs vitamin B6 in order for that enzyme to work.
Okay.
So if you look, there's a small little B6 beside the DDC.
I see that.
That B6 is vital for that enzyme to work. So if we have low vitamin B6, that conversion of 5-HTP to serotonin is going to be very slow.
Okay.
So vitamin B6, also known as pyridoxine. What I done with the sleep stack then was I looked and saw that, okay, our body uses vitamin B6, but it needs to be phosphorylated. So that's why there's pyridoxine 5-phosphate in the sleep stack.
Okay.
You're providing that B6 element in order to push the 5-HTP you've ingested to serotonin.
Okay.
So the combination of those two ingredients all of a sudden sees your serotonin pool increase. And you start to then relax.
So serotonin is what we need to sleep. It's almost like you're telling me the yin and the yang then to dopamine.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what's interesting is if you follow the arrow to the right to AANAT, so we go from serotonin across to the right,
Okay.
and if we follow the arrows down, serotonin actually is responsible for conversion to melatonin.
Ah. Okay.
So we all understand that we need melatonin to fall asleep,
Yeah.
and cortisol wakes us up in the morning.
Yeah.
So cortisol is the stress hormone, but we need that to promote wakefulness. But the opposite to cortisol is melatonin,
Huh.
and we need melatonin at night to induce sleep also.
Okay.
And that's why sleep hygiene is so important, because blocking blue light, entering into a relaxed state, dimmed lights, no exogenous blue light sources, anything that can stimulate the retina of the eye, helps to increase melatonin concentration in your brain.
Interesting. Okay.
So
Okay.
you need to have serotonin and you need to have some melatonin to fall asleep.
Okay. And this is all, once again, I'm just to almost continue to reiterate, so that anybody who is following along and anybody who could be struggling would be that, once again, then this all happens when dopamine is reduced.
Exactly.
And if serotonin is high, then I take it in the morning that must be the opposite. Your serotonin goes down and your dopamine, is that what it is then?
So obviously, yeah, dopamine is also increased when we wake in the morning time.
Okay.
but it's more so the fact that we actually run out of melatonin
Oh, okay.
during the night. So this is what I was going to get to with the
Oh,
other side of the insomnia,
yeah.
where you actually have difficulty staying asleep.
Yeah, yeah.
And the staying asleep part is dependent on that melatonin part.
Okay.
So if you can imagine, while you're sleeping, your serotonin that's in your brain now from the 5-HTP
Yeah.
is now getting converted across to melatonin while you're sleeping.
Okay.
If you follow the arrows across and down. So serotonin gets converted. This enzyme AANAT is a very interesting enzyme because it's one of our body clock enzymes.
Okay.
So it's one of our circadian rhythm enzymes that works at nighttime when we're sleeping. And that is dependent on, if you look closely, vitamin B5.
Where's this at again now? This is over to the right and then down?
Yeah, so if we look at serotonin,
Uh-huh.
we follow the line to the right, we have AANAT.
I see. So, okay. So we're still following from HTP down to DDC, down to serotonin, and then now over to the right and then down. I follow you. Gotcha.
So AANAT, like I said, is one of your biological clocks. It works at nighttime, and that helps to convert serotonin to melatonin.
Okay.
So it's very important that enzyme is active while you're sleeping because you want to make sure that that serotonin in your brain is going to melatonin to keep you asleep.
So without that, you could still produce serotonin, yet never have the melatonin you needed, or you're saying run out. Okay.
You run out, and you actually then wake up in the middle of the night not able to fall back asleep.
Okay. So I take it this is the next element of the sleep stack. That okay. What fixes this, or what makes you certain to continue having this converting serotonin to melatonin?
So like I said, if you look here, there's AANAT, and the cofactor for AANAT is vitamin B5.
Okay.
So you need adequate levels of vitamin B5 for this enzyme to keep making melatonin from serotonin. So in the sleep stack, there's 500 milligrams of vitamin B5.
Okay.
Pantothenic acid.
Huh. Okay. So that's there to ensure that you have enough melatonin produced through the night. So you're not using and that, we should note too, there's no melatonin in this product itself. You're not, because that was my first thought, was like, okay, he's got a sleep product. Where's the melatonin in the GABA?
And I mean, so melatonin, like I said, you need it to fall asleep.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you take melatonin as a supplement, it's only active in your system for about 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
So that's why when you take melatonin, it puts you asleep quite quickly.
Yeah.
But then you end up waking up in the middle of the night because obviously the biochemistry of your own body isn't making enough melatonin by itself.
I see.
So there's no issue. There's no issue to taking melatonin as a supplement to help you sleep. But you'd be best off relying on your body's own production of melatonin while you're sleeping.
Is there any evidence at all that you're aware of that would say your body would convert less serotonin to melatonin if you were to take a supplement, or does that not affect it from what you know?
As far as I'm aware, when you use exogenous melatonin, there isn't technically a negative feedback loop that when you take melatonin as a supplement that you won't make your own melatonin.
Okay.
Because obviously if you look here, the biochemistry is dependent on serotonin converting to melatonin through that AANAT enzyme.
Okay.
So when you're asleep, that AANAT enzyme will still be working to convert your serotonin to melatonin.
Okay.
And that's where people run into issues because they don't ingest the correct amounts of vitamin B during the day.
Okay.
Your diet could be deficient in it. What's also an important part is that you need methylation to be happening. So methylation, like we discussed the first time around, is a process that turns on and off your genes. That's the simplest way to explain it.
Okay.
And it's dependent on having adequate amounts of metal donors, which is a substance in your body that can methylate. It gives away metal groups.
Okay.
To activate genes. So when we look at sleep here, this other enzyme, which is a metal transferase, ASMT,
Okay.
which is the last step to melatonin. So when we follow the graph across ASMT,
Mm-hmm.
that needs SAM, which is a metal donor, S-adenosyl monomethionine.
Okay.
SAM is created from methionine.
Hmm.
So with the sleep stack, I thought, okay, taking metal donors before bed isn't a good idea. For the simple fact that when you take a metal donor, it can actually induce insomnia if
Really?
your methylation is bad. Yeah. What we need to do here is actually figure out an intelligent way to increase methylation while we're sleeping without actually giving the body a metal donor.
Okay.
And if you look at the sleep stack, I chose zinc monomethionine as my zinc source. So zinc is one of the very important minerals in your body for not only, your central nervous system, it's also involved, neurotransmitter synthesis. So by providing an elemental zinc source, I was also able to then provide a methionine source to help that methylation. So I'm killing two birds with one stone here.
Interesting. Okay.
So between the 5-HTP, the vitamin B6, the pyridoxine 5-phosphate, the B5, pantothenic acid, and then the zinc monomethionine, I am ensuring that 5-HTP is always getting pushed to serotonin, and then the serotonin is getting pushed to melatonin.
That's really cool.
So I'm taking advantage of the body's own biochemistry in order to help you fall asleep,
Yeah.
but more importantly, keep you asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, it works, man. I mean, I found such success that when I've used this product, I wake up feeling refreshed. Like it's different. It's different as far as sleep products go. It's very unique, man. Is there anything else here that we haven't covered yet? Any other directions we need to go?
So what we've spoken about there was obviously the whole serotonin pathway.
Okay.
But the other interesting part to, I guess, people who are involved in, say, advanced bodybuilding is, like I said, androgen-induced insomnia.
Yeah.
Which we tend to see when it comes to contest prep time. And that all comes down to dopamine. So if we look at the whole right side of this graph,
Okay.
we can follow tyrosine in the middle, and then tyrosine hydroxylase, TH, makes L-dopa,
Okay.
and L-dopa makes dopamine.
Okay.
Okay, so all those processes happen to increase dopamine in your brain.
Okay.
Now, dopamine, like I said, is what keeps you awake. It's stimulatory, and it's, a reward, I guess, enhancing neurotransmitter. So when you're lying in bed at night and you're really tired, but your mind can't relax,
Yeah.
it's because of that excitatory activation of those neurons because of dopamine.
Yeah. I think we all have experienced that, especially I think, and anytime I'd run, a heavier cycle, I could see that, so you're telling me that that's what's happening. That's the insomnia that I'm experiencing is related to this.
So you have two parts to it. You have either androgens themselves stimulate dopamine, and they also then slow down the clearance of dopamine.
Okay.
So the clearance of dopamine is what's important here. We want to get dopamine neurotransmitters out of our brain in order to bring us into a relaxed state of mind.
If I recall, I'm going to try to throw something out there to sound like I'm smart. Is that where COMT? Is that right?
Exactly.
Comes in? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, I remember that. I learned a lot from this because then I learned after talking to you how important COMT is to clearing a lot of hormones that
exactly.
In neurotransmitters. That this is a very important aspect to basically like the reactions that happen in our bodies.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very important biologically active enzyme. So COMT is catechol O methyltransferase. So it methylates, like what we spoke about a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
It methylates catechols, which are a certain structure of chemical.
Okay.
So under catechols, you have dopamine, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and estrogen.
Yeah.
So when we look at COMT, it's having to do a lot of processes in the body.
And where does this come from in our bodies?
COMT, it's just an enzyme that's genetically made. There's a gene that codes for this enzyme in your body.
Okay.
So it's expressed throughout your whole body.
Okay.
But if we look at the diagram, you can see dopamine through another hydroxylase enzyme, DBH. So dopamine can then feed off down and get converted to VMA at the very bottom. So you go from dopamine and you watch all the lines straight down through all the way to the bottom.
Gotcha.
So VMA is your end product to dopamine. It's what your body then clears out. When it's finished with dopamine, it creates VMA, and VMA gets excreted then.
Okay, so that's like VMA is the broken down version or whatever of dopamine. So dopamine itself can't be excreted. It needs to be broken down into this byproduct, and then that can be excreted. Okay.
Exactly. So
just out of curiosity, where's that excreted through?
It'd be through your urine.
Okay.
So you can actually do urinary analysis for VMA.
Yeah.
And then you can see how much dopamine your body's making.
Interesting. Okay. Cool.
Because you can track how much VMA is being made.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And being excreted. Which is interesting. If people have dopamine issues, you can actually track the excretion of dopamine. So whether you have low dopamine or high dopamine.
Yeah.
If you had low dopamine, your VMA levels would be very low. And if you had high dopamine, you'd have high VMA levels. So dopamine needs COMT to be working efficiently. And if we look, it's very interesting because SAM and magnesium, so SAM, which is a metal donor, so obviously COMT is a metal transferase enzyme. So it needs these metal donors in order to metallate dopamine for excretion.
Okay.
So if you don't have enough metal donors, like methionine, COMT is going to slow down. And magnesium, if you don't have enough magnesium, the inner core of COMT has a magnesium ion, which stabilizes the enzyme.
Okay.
And I can guarantee you that most enhanced bodybuilders are deficient in magnesium.
Really? So would you go as far as to say that all enhanced bodybuilders should be supplementing magnesium of some form?
They should. I mean, it's so vital towards, it's involved in nearly 900 different processes in the body.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, if you can imagine, if you're heavily excreting, through sweat, through, urinating, you need to replenish this as almost like an electrolyte.
Okay. Wow.
So between sodium, calcium, potassium, and magnesium, those are the four things that you should be paying attention to surrounding your hydration status in your body.
Okay.
So when you run out of magnesium or you don't have enough magnesium, COMT slows right down.
Sure, that makes sense.
And if COMT slows down, dopamine is nowhere to go.
Okay.
The enzyme that clears it is completely slowed down. Now, what we spoke about at the very beginning just there a second ago, COMT also clears estrogen.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're taking a heavy course of androgens, which are, highly aromatizing, so say you're taking a high level of testosterone and you're not controlling your estrogen correctly, COMT has to clear that estrogen.
Okay.
So now it's stuck between having to clear estrogen and clear dopamine.
Yeah, okay,
so
gotcha.
You can imagine why at nighttime then you're just lying there wide awake because your brain just can't physically clear.
It's used it up, you're telling me, on the estrogen, on a high level estrogen. Interesting, okay.
Exactly. So that's why magnesium bisglycinate is in the sleep stack.
Okay.
So you're providing, a high level of magnesium, 500 milligrams, to help support COMT. But also, cleverly, like the zinc, I chose magnesium bisglycinate because it actually is a magnesium ion chelated to two glycine molecules.
Okay, what does that mean?
So glycine then feeds into making GABA in your body.
Okay.
So now I'm giving you glycine in order to help support your body make its own GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, so that your brain calms down itself.
Okay.
So rather than actually taking GABA, which has a low I guess, oral efficacy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually given the precursor to that neurotransmitter in order for your body to make more of its own.
Okay. Interesting. Is there a negative impact to taking just an exogenous GABA capsule or whatever?
Not that I'm aware of, but I think the research that's coming out recently is that actually GABA absorption is actually happening in our gut,
Okay.
and then it's feeding back to our brain. It's not that actually the GABA's too big to cross your blood-brain barrier,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is like this protective blood vessel wall, you could explain it as, that prevents passage of molecules to a certain size from entering your brain.
Okay.
So GABA technically is too big, whereas phenyl GABA or phenibut, because of the phenyl group, because they've done a structural change to it, actually is more lipophilic and can actually cross over that blood-brain barrier. So that's why phenibut works better
Yeah.
than GABA.
Yeah.
But that's not to say the research that's coming out recently that GABA doesn't actually work at I guess, a brain level. It actually gets systemically absorbed through the gut and then goes to the brain.
Okay. So there's going to be some transit time, and obviously it's not going to
And
be.
the dose
Yeah.
needs to be quite high. You're talking like 3 to 4 grams of GABA.
And then you start running into side effects and morning tiredness and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I'm not, like you said with the sleep stack, it's very difficult for it to make you drowsy.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the whole way the biochemistry is designed, I've had maybe 2 or 3 people out of the thousands that have tried it tell me, oh, the next morning I feel a little bit groggy.
Yeah.
But other than that, I feel fine. You know, like once they get exposed to sunlight and they get moving, their body wakes up naturally. It's not like when you take a high dose of phenibut or, you know, GABA, you know about it the next morning because you feel sort of, there is a hangover sensation to it where your body's still more like a fuzzy feeling until you actually awaken your body with exposure to sunlight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely experienced that, and I've experienced the clarity of using. That's I think the key thing with your supplement. It's not the way I feel going to sleep. It's the fact that I was able to sleep well, and then the way I feel when I wake up. That's the difference that I've noticed with it. And I hate to even say this because I don't want to come off like it's an infomercial. I'll say it again. At this point, we're not affiliated with Supplement Needs or Dr. Dean's product. I'm just personally sharing my experience on this. That's just the truth, man. Is there anything else we need to talk about on this that we haven't covered yet?
No, I think we've managed to break down what's a very complex, I guess, biochemical process into as probably a simpler way that I can explain it.
Oh, dude, well, you did a great job, and I really appreciate it because, I think that's the difficult thing. It's like I noticed that with smart people, it's hard for them to talk on my level, which is, just a normal guy level. But and granted, I've had the opportunity to hear you speak a couple of times about this now. But it has made a lot of sense to me. And guys, if you do feel a little fuzzy on this, you can always listen again. I found that, listening to these more complex shows like this, that, watching it a couple times, listening to it a couple times, that things tend to make more sense. And that's one of the reasons I said, let's bring you back and talk about this again, Dr. Dean, because I figured to myself, hey, it had been easy a year since we did the previous show. Even if listeners are going to rehear this explanation, it'll probably be a little bit different this time, but also I think it's a good refresher. So man, I much appreciate your time, Dr. Dean. And definitely to plug your product. If people wanted to check out the Sleep Stack or anything else that you have from Supplement Needs, where can they go to find this stuff?
So the website is supplementneeds.co.uk. If you want to use my discount code is Dr. Dean. That'll save you 5% off your whole order.
Awesome.
We do have an interesting combination at the moment with a new product that I released at the end of last year, which was the PM priming stack.
Okay.
So like what we were talking about there, the sleep stack is more so for helping you fall asleep and stay asleep.
Yeah.
If people want to check out, I will soon have an education website for Supplement Needs where I have, videos like this where I'm explaining why the products work.
Awesome.
To educate people on, if they're not too sure on what products to buy, or do you want to learn a bit about biochemistry, I speak about on the website the product breakdowns.
Excellent.
The PM priming stack, I developed that as a way of helping your mind relax as you head into bedtime.
Okay.
So it's been designed that, first of all, it helps caffeine clearance. So if you've had caffeine later in the day, 2 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon,
Yeah.
I've included broccoli seed extract,
Okay.
which helps speed up an enzyme in your liver that clears caffeine.
Interesting.
So, if you take this product 2.5 hours before sleep time, it's clearing the rate of caffeine from your body faster, so that when it comes to actual bedtime, you don't have this wakefulness, this promoting substance in your brain.
Yeah, I like that idea. That's cool.
And then the other side of it then is it has a massive dose of phosphatidylserine,
Okay.
which helps to lower cortisol synthesis. So again, you're helping to promote a low cortisol environment to help calm you down.
Okay.
And then the final part to it is a product known as Lutamax, which is a painted form of lutein.
Okay.
Which is a very important antioxidant for eye health.
Huh. Okay.
So it's helping to, I guess, help cellular health within your eyes if you're being exposed to blue light constantly.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Which again will have a negative effect on your sleep.
Yeah.
So the feedback between the two of them combined has been incredible.
That's cool,
I have
man.
guys who are taking pre-workout in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
Using the product when they get home at 5:30, 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And by the time 10 p.m. comes, it was as if they never took pre-workout. They're falling asleep.
That's amazing. That is really cool. So guys, definitely check out the website. I'll have that down in the description, excuse me, as well as Dr. Dean's discount code. So check those things out. And Dr. Dean, man, I am always so grateful to have you with us. I really appreciate everything that you're doing to help educate bodybuilding. I mean, at the end of the day, sure, you have a supplement here that you're marketing, but you're marketing it because it's something that you knew you could do, something you could believe in. This is truly a revolutionary product, and you're basically like giving away the secrets here. So if somebody wanted to try and go and do these things, on their own, they could. And I even had one of our listeners try that with the liver stack. They found out they spent a lot more money. So you're welcome to do that, guys. But honestly, I think that Dr. Dean's put together a fantastic product. So, you're welcome to check that stuff out. And if you do, let me know what you think. You can leave, a message down in the notes here in the comments, and tell me about your experience. So, Dr. Dean, I much appreciate your time today, brother.
Thanks very much for having me, Scott. Always a pleasure.